Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Carricker.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. Great to have you with us in The Fight here on Matrix Midwest, and quite a show coming up for you. We will have the best shots from the BMW Classic, which took place, of course, here in St. Louis over the weekend. We also will provide you with a daily wager, and we've got the Cardinals with a real struggle down the stretch in Philadelphia, where they wound up losing their game. But we'll get things started with that brutal loss by the Cardinals to Philadelphia. And it was just a bad ninth inning. Cardinals up by a score of 4-0 as they head into the ninth. But when they, let's go to golf. Let's go start with the BMW Classic, because that was such a great day. And what a day for Wyndham Clark, who won his third tournament of the year and also was able to come away with the BMW Championship. And here is the final putt. He was a 5-shot leader as we started round number 4 on Sunday. But by the 11th hole, the tournament was tied. Rory McIlroy with a couple of birdies, Wyndham Clark with 3 bogeys, but down the stretch, Rory McIlroy just made a mess of number 17, and Wyndham Clark was able to come away with a huge birdie, his first of the day at 16, also came away with a birdie at 17, while Rory messed up, and then at number 18, Clark was able to put it away. And here's what happened to Rory McIlroy down the stretch. Number 17, this goes into the deep rough. All of the rough at Belle Reve was tough over the weekend. This was one of his great shots, but Rory had real troubles at 17. As a matter of fact, he said after the tournament was over that he really didn't deserve to win because he isn't playing that well. Well, Wyndham Clark was playing well and is playing well and really enjoyed playing in St. Louis.
St. Louis is a huge sports town. I've been a Cardinals fan most of my life, and they're one of the best fan bases for baseball, and I know for hockey they do a great job, and obviously when they had the Rams, same thing. And so for them to support golf as well, I knew that was going to happen, and they said it was record-breaking attendance for the event, which is not a shocker, and it was really exciting today. I mean, every hole was lined with people, and obviously Rory's a fan favorite, but I still got a lot of cheers, and it created a fun atmosphere. And for us, that's the most fun when you're competing to win a championship, and there's huge crowds and the extra energy that they bring. So it was awesome.
Now, the story of the weekend was St. Louis. The weather was perfect. The crowds were enormous. All 4 days were sold out. The patrons were energetic. The players absolutely loved it. And St. Louis is a great stop for the tour, but I think it's better for us to have a big event like a PGA or a BMW every 6 or 8 years rather than have an annual event. I think the novelty wears off after a while if you have it year after year, and seeing the best at their best is where it's at, and we certainly did this weekend. We were at our best as a community, too. Hey, just a devastating loss for the Cardinals in Philly. Up 4-0 in Philly with a chance to salvage the last game of the series. But instead of a Cardinal win, the Phillies rallied for 4 in the ninth to tie it. And that was before Kyle Schwarber's major league leading 39th home run capped the 6-run ninth and won it for Philadelphia by a score of 6-4. It was rugged for Riley O'Brien in the ninth, and there was nobody else to blame. With 2 out, you got a runner at second base, a single and a walk, and then Edmundo Sosa with a big double to clear the bases, make it 4-3, and then Brian De La Cruz with a base hit to score Sosa, and then Schwarber with the game winner. There's so much about this 11-game trip. Cardinals fell back to 500 by losing their last 3. They've lost 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 7. They fell 5.5 games behind in a wild card spot. And not including Pedro Page's inning on Saturday where he had to pitch, the bullpen pitched 39 innings in the 11 games with an earned run average of 6 on the trip. To be fair, if you take out Riley O'Brien's 9th inning yesterday, the bullpen ERA is 5.14 for 11 games, but that's still not acceptable. And they lost starters Andre Pallante and Hunter Dobbins to the IL with forearm injuries, the first Cardinal starters to go on the IL since late September of 24 when Sonny Gray went on with forearm tightness. This is why, until a team has been through this, the last 30, 40 games of a season, you have to be wary. The Cardinals being 500 with 30 games left is a major victory for the season. But the last month, as I always have talked about, is a different animal. And hopefully the Cardinals will respond. This is still a pretty good baseball team with an upward trajectory. They just aren't ready to play with the best of the best yet. Mizzou football, they held their final scrimmage before the opener against Arkansas Pine Bluff in 10 days. Coach Eli Drinkwitz on his star running back.
Ahmad is working his rear end off. He's doing everything we can ask him to do, but just not going to be able to be ready for that first game. We're going to do the very best by him and his team, and our medical team just feel like right now it's in his best interest to hold off. So I want to make sure that I get that out there to the fans now, so there's no false hope there, and hopefully we can get that, he can keep working and try to get back as soon as possible.
Drinkwitz offered no timetable for Hardy's return. It could be mid-September, it could be mid-October. What the coach needs to see is 2 weeks of Hardy at 100% in practice before he can play. And Drinkwitz says to this point, he's just not fast enough to be able to play in a game, and they need to get him ready. But Jamal Roberts, a 6 foot, 216-pound senior out of St. Mary's, was voted a team captain, and Drinkwitz says he's more than capable of carrying the load until Hardy returns. So Mizzou will have their running back. Their offense, he said, after their last scrimmage, got better and better as the summer went along. Drinkwitz is excited about the upward trajectory of the defense. Of course, there are a lot of defensive players. There's only one returning defensive player, so there are a lot of defensive players that are new for this Mizzou squad, but many of them did play even though they weren't starters last year. So they're going to have a couple of weeks of practice. They'll have multiple weeks to get Ahmad Hardy ready. The running game should be okay in the hands of Jamal Roberts and also Zayshawn Edwards. And now the big key is going to be, how does the new quarterback Austin Simmons perform for Mizzou as they get things started again September 3rd, a Thursday night against Arkansas Pine Bluff. Soccer, good news, bad news for St. Louis City SC. They extended their team record unbeaten string to 12 games with an impressive 2-1 win over Houston. City moves into a pretty solid playoff position, tied for 4th in the West, but on the heels of seeing their best player this year, Marcel Hartl, head across the pond to join the Bundesliga in a transfer. City reportedly is trading the best player in their history, Edward Leuven, to the San Jose Earthquakes for cash. Now, I don't know much about the technical side of soccer, but what I do know about sports is that the really special guys stand out. You notice them. You notice the Jordan Walkers. You notice the Patrick Mahomes. You notice the Jimmy Snuggaroos. They have an unusual talent. And when a soccer game starts, Leuven is really noticeable. I don't know what the next move to improve on Leuven is, but that player must be pretty impressive if City thinks they're going to be better without Edward Leuven in their lineup. Over the course of many years, Doug Armstrong, to me, earned the benefit of the doubt. He was a great evaluator of talent as a general manager, and his teams won. Corey Ray hasn't even been in place for a year. Neither has his coach, Yohan DeMay. So that's why I have to question whether they're doing the right thing in moving on from a guy like Edward Leuven. He was great in the first year. He was their shining star, really one of the few, if not the only, bright spot in a couple of down years for St. Louis City SC. He endured an unspeakable tragedy with the death of his wife, and now he's just getting into game shape again, and they send him out the door. Just don't know if that's the best move for St. Louis City, and certainly don't know if it's the best move to keep your fan base engaged. College basketball. Former Mizzou forward Mark Mitchell, who averaged 18.3 points and connected on nearly 39% of his three-point attempts for the Tigers last season, committed to play for Kentucky this year. Here we are at the end of August, and the season starts in about a month and a half, and Mark Mitchell has his new team. Last week, a Kentucky court cleared Mitchell to play a 5th season of college basketball through a temporary restraining order that allowed him to transfer to another school, Kentucky. Mitchell wasn't selected in the NBA draft and was trying to make the Nuggets as a free agent. Mitchell's case, which also included LSU commit and former UCLA standout Sky Clark, was separate from the ruling by a federal judge in Colorado that barred athletes in the 2022 high school class from being included in the NCAA's new age-based eligibility window to compete this coming season. The NCAA has vowed to fight all federal and state cases filed by those athletes seeking a 5th season, meaning Mitchell's case could be appealed and his eligibility could be rescinded at any moment. Mitchell's arrival could turn Kentucky into a Final Four contender, with former Iowa State forward Milan Momcilovic the top player available in the transfer portal going to Kentucky, and Mitchell going to Kentucky, the best available fifth-year player on the board. The Wildcats could compete for an SEC crown and more. And this is another example, by the way, of why the Protect College Sports Act needs to be passed. Nobody has any control of the situation. A Cleveland Browns tight end is leaving the NFL, leaving training camp to go back to college today. If the NCAA can continue to be sued in every state and hometown judges rule to make Ole State U better, this will never end. The antitrust exemptions in the act that allow the NCAA to make and enforce their rules are the most important parts of the act, and we need it now because players leaving the pros, like Mitchell and like the tight end from the Browns, Mitchell going to Kentucky, the tight end from the Browns going to LSU, that's preposterous, okay? I'm all for the players getting what they can get, but there's got to be some semblance of sanity here. And players going from the pros to play in college is absolutely insane. Those are your quick hits here in The Fight, and they are brought to you by our friends at St. Luke's. Top-notch doctors in everything from heart health to orthopedics and more. Visit stlukes-stl.com today. Later in the show, we're going to put together a daily wager for you. We'll have that in our last segment, and we'll tell you about a big winner we had from last week. But coming up next, we're going to take a trip around the horn. MLB news and notes coming your way next here in The Fight. It is time for a trip around the horn. We've got news and notes from Major and Minor League Baseball for you, and we will start at first base. The Seattle Mariners were thought by many, including yours truly, to be a World Series contender before the season started. And we thought that the strength of their World Series championship team would be their starting pitching. Well, they called up their top prospect, Cade Anderson, over the weekend because the Mariners' pitching had been abysmal, with the team owning a 5.56 earned run average since July 21st, about a month of having a 5.56 ERA, with their starters having a 4.75. And that's a group that has George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, Bryce Miller, and Emerson Hancock. And they traded Luis Castillo. It's an impressive group of names, if not pitchers, that have earned their reputation as one of the best groups in sports. But that 4.75 ERA for the starters is troubling. And their overall leader ranks as the third worst, or their overall ERA rather, ranks as the third worst mark in baseball over the last 2 months, ahead of the Rockies and the A's, two clubs without postseason aspirations. Anderson was fine, 5 2/3, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, and a 5-4 win on Saturday, but he didn't stop the bleeding. The Mariners did win the game on Saturday, but yesterday, the Cubs scored 5 in the third off of Bryce Miller, and the Mariners fell to 62-69 in a blowout loss to the Cubs. They fall by a score of 19-4, and the pitching for Seattle just is not going to be good enough, even with the presence of Cade Anderson, to allow them to make a run and make the playoffs and pass both Houston and Texas, the leaders in the American League's Western Division. You have to take advantage of those windows, and this is a team, Seattle, that was 1 game away from going to the World Series. They were actually 3 innings away from going to the World Series last year, and they missed out. And this year, they go get Brendan Donovan. We think, okay, they got the starting, they got pitching, they got the offense, but Cal Raleigh is a disaster, and they have to call up their best prospect and one of the top prospects in baseball, because what we thought was going to be the strength of their team has turned into a major weakness in Seattle. All right, let's move to second base, where Yankees 3-time MVP Aaron Judge has been cleared to start his hitting progression. The last step before making it back to the big leagues is ramping up his hitting. Manager Aaron Boone said it's all part of the process and hopefully goes well, but the fact that he's responded in his first week of added intensity as far as being allowed to do some things upper body-wise is all part of the buildup. Now, it's unclear how much time Judge, who has been sidelined with that stress fracture in his first right rib, will need to get ready for game action, but you'd have to believe it'll be sooner rather than later. And Judge will follow Cody Bellinger, who returned to the Yankees after dealing with a hamstring injury yesterday. Those two apparently will not be joined by Giancarlo Stanton, who's been out since April 24th with a calf injury. Stanton had been working out, running the bases, and doing agility drills, but suffered a setback over the weekend. So now it looks like Stanton is out for the season.
I have an update on G. He unfortunately has strained his other calf in his running a couple days ago. Had fallen and the other calf is strained. So it's a moderate grade. So what that means moving forward. We're not ruling anything out. He'll obviously continue to work to try and get it right and hopefully be available. But, obviously, we're at a point in the calendar where it gets challenging, but you also never know. So, obviously bummed for him. He's been working his tail off every single day here trying to get this thing right. I think you all know how bad he wants to be on that field contributing to a championship. And so, obviously that's disappointing, but, hopefully, we just continue to work to get him right and healthy.
About Giancarlo, a couple of things about Giancarlo Stanton. Number one, the Cardinals are really lucky that they didn't get him at the beginning of the stretch of 2018 until now. And the Cardinals were ready to take on his entire contract. And he looks like an Adonis. He's in fantastic shape. But Whitey Herzog once said about finely tuned players, maybe they need to eat a hot dog and drink a beer, because this guy pulled the calf muscle initially while jogging to second base. He was on first. The Yankees hitter takes a walk, and Stanton is jogging to second from first, and that's when he pulled his first calf muscle. And then he injured another part of the calf muscle, and that was his right side. And then the most recent one is a left calf muscle. Maybe those calf muscles are just a little bit too tight. Maybe he just needs to quit working out so much and loosen that body up a little bit. The speculation in New York is that even though the Yankees owe him about $25 million next year, that they'll let him go. He's played about half of the games in a Yankee uniform that they have played. He's only been available for about half of those, and that's with the designated hitter, by the way. Cardinals didn't have the DH until the last 5 years. Can you imagine what it would have been like for the Cardinals if they would have had Stanton and they wouldn't have had the DH available? He would have never played for them. It really would have changed the course of history had the Cardinals been able to get him. And by the way, they did have a deal done until Stanton said, nope, I'm only going to go to 4 teams. I'll go to the Yankees, I'll go to Houston, I'll go to the Cubs, I'll go to the Dodgers, and the Yankees wound up being the team that he went to. New York does have the best starters earned run average in baseball. The Yankees are amazing. They have the 3rd most innings pitched in the American League, and their bullpen ERA is second only to Boston in big league baseball. So if New York gets Judge and Bellinger back and they keep pitching like they have for nearly 4 months, they're going to be a problem for everybody else. The key to that team, unbelievably, is the guy that's missing, Aaron Judge. They're a good offensive team with Aaron Judge in the lineup. They're literally a bad offensive team without him in the lineup, but they have every other element. They have the rest of the bats now after the trade deadline. They do have great starting pitching. They have a terrific bullpen. Aaron Boone is a fine manager. All they need is to have Aaron Judge, and the Yankees will be fine. All right, time for third base. And let's go across the state. 2 years ago, after Jackson County voters resoundingly rejected a ballot measure that would have increased sales taxes to fund a new stadium for the Royals, Kansas City City Council approved a $600 million tax-free set of bonds for a baseball stadium project that's expected to receive $1.14 billion in public funds from the city of Kansas City and the state of Missouri. The agreement, passed by the city's finance committee and approved by an 11-2 council vote, also stipulates that the Royals, quote, have no obligation to repay or otherwise support payment of, unquote, city-backed bonds. That means that the city is left to cover any shortfalls. That's a key stipulation, given the risk involved to the city and the potential bonds to create a debt bomb for municipalities. The proposed 30-year lease also allows the Royals to seek more public funding for major stadium renovations in the future while paying $1 a year in rent. The agreement is far more public than private, with $1.14 billion coming from the city and state, along with bridging shortfalls, and $760 million coming from the Royals. The stadium project entails rezoning and redeveloping the city's Crown Center, the longtime headquarters for Hallmark Cards. Council member Jonathan Duncan, one of the 2 dissenting votes, criticized the deal. He called the $55 million community benefits paltry, such as a $5 million donation to the Negro Leagues Hall of Fame and Museum. He said, quote, "We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar deal." And he criticized his colleagues for capitulating to the Royals. Now, I'm all about building new stadiums and using my tax money to build them. I want new stadiums. But to send the idea to the public vote of the county and then have the voters reject the stadium and the funding and then have the city council vote to spend the money, that seems like it's going against the will of the people. For me, if the council is going to approve the money, just do it. Don't put it in the hands of the voters. At least the optics aren't nearly as bad as this. Essentially telling the voters, yeah, you're wrong. You don't know what's better for you, and we know what's best for you, so we are going to spend your tax money on a new stadium. Again, I'm all about a tax for a new stadium, but I just wonder how Kansas City people feel after voting against financing for a new Royals stadium and then having their representatives in city council say, yeah, you're wrong. We're going to fund a new stadium. But good for KC, they're going to get a new baseball stadium. All right, let's move to home plate. And former Cardinal outfielder Tommy Pham, who gets it, went to Twitter after last Wednesday's egregious drop by Cincinnati's Dane Myers. Watch this play that allowed the Cardinals to score 6 runs in the 9th inning and win the game. The Cardinals went on a run after Myers dropped this ball. And obviously, the left fielder could have had it too. Well, Tommy Pham took to Twitter and he said, "What's going on is we have center fielders today who know the value of stealing catches to help their outs above average numbers go up because it improves your WAR. So you have this, a game that is lost because the center fielder didn't want the left fielder to catch the ball because he wanted the points." Dane Myers, the guy who dropped the ball, responded, "A 10-year vet, a decent one at that, a brother calling me selfish. You're talking like an average fan, man. You spent all that time in the big leagues. You should know/remember there's more to a play than what just appears on the screen. That being said, the play still has to be made," the play where he dropped the ball. And then Tommy Pham, after somebody had written a column about the piece, said, like I've never played in Cincy. You can add this to your column then, Dane Myers 3. And Myers came back and said, "Sticking with selfish still? Even after a mutual told you that's not who I am? I'm 30. I'm about to enter the first year of arbitration. I'm never going to get the big bag. I don't care about extra 0.1 outs above average. I play to win. Quit playing with my name and character. You sound dumb. You're a whack OG to me." And so you got a little Twitter kerfuffle between Dane Myers and Tommy Pham, which I absolutely love because there's nothing like a Twitter spat between major leaguers. And if I watched that play and knew what Tommy Pham knows and had done what Tommy Pham had done, because Tommy Pham gets analytics, I tend to side with Tommy Pham here. Now, I know that Myers, like he said, he's never going to get the big bag, but I do think that players do make moves and do things statistically to benefit them rather than benefit the team. And that play obviously should have and could have been made by the left fielder. And if Myers doesn't drop it, then the Reds probably win the game. And the Cardinals did wind up winning, so thank you, Dane Myers. All right, now that is home plate. And it's really amazing to me what we're able to accomplish here on our trip around the horn. But now it's time for our look at the weekend in the sports world. And we'll start with soccer because we mentioned City's 12th match in a row without a loss. They knocked off Western Conference leading Houston 2-1, a huge win for City. Simon Betcher and Dante Pulvera scored for City, who had 4 shots on goal, the same number as Houston. City now tied for the 4th most points in the conference behind Houston, Vancouver, and LAFC. Never would have seen that coming at the beginning of the season before they really got things rolling. Next Sunday night, City SC will host Dallas before going to Vancouver on Sunday, September 5th. They're still playing the best that the conference has to offer. And if they keep this up, as we've talked with Jen Cease about before, no reason to believe that St. Louis City SC, with the success they're having against the best teams in the conference, couldn't do some damage in the playoffs once those start and beat these same teams again. And let's move to hockey because NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley says the league is on track to add Houston or Austin to the league to play in the 29-30 season. In an interview at the NHL's European Media Tour, Daly said, quote, "We're moving forward in Texas. I expect ultimately we'll be in a position to bring something to the board to get their view on it. We'll probably get together with the group again in September and kind of see where they are in the process and what they want us to do to help. To the extent they need anything." He said, quote, "If we finalize that and the board approves it, then at the end of this calendar year, we'll have an announcement that we're expanding to either Houston or Austin. That would take the NHL to 33 teams. The NBA right now has 30. When they add Vegas and Seattle, they'll be up to 32. The NFL probably will not expand. They're very happy with 32 teams. The next expansion I think we'll probably see in the NFL will be international. And then you look at Major League Baseball, and they're at 30. They'll probably wind up with 32 by the turn of the decade as well. But getting to 34 is going to be monumental for the National Hockey League. Obviously, at $2 billion a franchise, that's a good amount of money for the other owners to share. That'd be a $4 billion influx that would be split among the other 32 current teams. It's also looking at a 34th, right? You add a 33rd, you have to add a 34th. And the NHL could go back to Quebec City. I think that would make sense. Although the league hasn't given up on Atlanta, big market that has failed twice, or Phoenix, which had horrible ownership. They haven't given up on those either. Phoenix, by the way, was a really good market until they got bad ownership. They even had a bad location for their arena. And I know Gary Bettman is interested in finding ownership that is reasonable in the Valley of the Sun and maybe giving Phoenix another opportunity. And that is our weekend. Those are our weekend highlights. Coming up in the list, we've got the best shots from the weekend at the BMW Championship right here on Matrix Midwest. It is time for the list, and what a weekend it was at the BMW Championship at Belle Reve Country Club. St. Louis showing up and showing out again, and so did the golfers. And so our list, the best shots from the BMW Championship this weekend at Belle Reve. And we'll start with round 4. Yesterday at number 10, Collin Morikawa. He had a great stretch run. This is from 180 yards away, and he's able to get it within a foot of the hole to get to 12 under par. Collin has not been great in terms of what we expected from him, but this is the kind of shots that he's capable of. And Morikawa would hang in for the rest of the round and finish tied for 12th at 12 under par. He's a really good golfer. He's just really inconsistent, and he's still very young. He's a guy that has a chance to be great, but he gives us our number 6 shot of the weekend at the BMW Championship. All right, we've got another one from round 4, and number 17 really played crazily difficult, and there were some spectacular shots. Yesterday, Scotty Scheffler, out of it at this point, he wasn't going to win the tournament, but his second shot at the par 5 17th, over the trees, watch that tree on the right, boom, over the tree on the right, and this is from about 250 yards away. He missed the putt, but look where this shot lands. Unbelievable. Missed the putt, got the birdie. Scheffler bogeyed 19 and finished it in bogeyed 17, or 18 rather, and finished in 12th at 7 under par for the tournament. And we'll hear a little bit more from Scotty coming up in just a moment. All right, our number 4 shot is from Friday, round 2. Chris Gotterup on the 212-yard par 3-6 hole, and you can't get any closer to a hole-in-one than Gotterup got. And this shot was spectacular, 212 yards. Okay, so Randy on a 212-yard par 3 is happy just to get it on the green. He almost puts it right in the hole. He just needed an earthquake there, and that goes in the hole. And it was wonderful. He did obviously get the birdie. Heading into Atlanta next week, Gotterup is 7th in the FedEx Cup standings, and this shot helped him get there, and he's got a chance to be the player of the year if he wins next week. He's got 3 wins on tour this year. Chris Gotterup could wind up being your player of the year. You'd think that Wyndham Clark would be the favorite right now. Scotty is going to be in the mix, but if Gotterup gets a win in Atlanta, then he's got a chance too. All right, another one from yesterday. Here's number 3, the 524-yard par 4 fourth from 191 yards away. How about this approach from Alex Smalley? He lets it rip, and this is part of the best round of the week for Smalley. He finished 16th at 16 under par, but that is unbelievable. And again, this is from 191 yards away. Just a beautiful shot for Alex Smalley. This is a guy that played with Matthew Tkachuk in the Pro-Am and had a really good run, and he's sneaky good. 23rd in the FedEx Cup standings, and he will play next week in Atlanta with, obviously, a chance to win that tournament. But getting into Atlanta, where you have to be in the top 30, pretty impressive, and a very impressive shot there by Alex Smalley. All right, our number 2 shot. Friday on the par 5, 17th again. We saw Scotty's shot there yesterday. How about Ricky Fowler's second shot from 271 yards away? This is his second shot. His second shot on the par 5, and almost had an albatross, almost had a 3 under par on the hole. Finished 37th in the BMW Championship, but is the number 30 player and the last player in the FedEx standings, and this would have shot him up the leaderboard, and that would have been number 1 had that one gone in. Obviously, he did get the eagle. He hit the putt and got the eagle, and he's going to be playing in Atlanta next week as well. And it's great to see Ricky Fowler. I followed him around a little bit yesterday because orange is one of my favorite colors, but it's great to see him performing at a level that is commensurate with his talents. He is one of the 30 best golfers in the world, and I know he had a couple of down years, but I, for one, love seeing Ricky Fowler back, and I'll be intrigued to see what he does in Atlanta next week. All right, number 1. One of the great stories of the week was Gary Woodland. He was at number 11 on Friday, 97 yards to go, and Gary Woodland, who was really emotional after finishing up yesterday, led at this point. And he's able to maintain the lead and get it even a little bit extended after he holes out from 97 yards on number 11 on Friday. He had a great tournament, finishing tied for 12th at 4 under, but he just missed the cut. 30 players advanced, and Woodland, in the late going, fell down to number 31, so he will not be playing in Atlanta next week. And we have a bonus because we need to respect putting, right? Robert McIntyre at the big green on number 10 on Friday from 80 feet away, and he lets it go, and McIntyre's putt just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. An 80-foot putt is nailed by Robert McIntyre. That was sensational. He had a really good weekend. He finished tied for 7th at 12 under par. Didn't make the cut for Atlanta, but did have the putt of the tournament. That's Robert McIntyre, and he is our bonus member of the list today with number 7. Now, one other note. I told people all day yesterday that I was bummed that Scotty Scheffler wasn't in the hunt, and we told you we'd hear from him later on. Well, that's going to be now because there was a good reason that he wasn't feeling great.
No, I got, the hand-foot mouth, so you get your blisters on your hands and in your throat and on your feet. So, to start the week, it was pretty painful to grip the club, but if I was smarter, maybe would have pulled out. But I was playing so good, I felt like if I could knock it out quickly and just get through the first couple rounds, I'd still have a chance. But I think that's part of my stubbornness, probably, and that's probably a strength of mine and a weakness at times. Like I've never been one to ever pull out of a tournament, and, especially in the middle of it. That's really frustrating for me, and so I definitely didn't want to do that going into this week, even though it was suggested. But like I said, I'm proud of how I fought. I feel like I'm starting to heal up. My throat is still bugging me pretty good, but my hands feel normal today. I actually almost caught myself shaking hands with Cam on 18, and I would have felt really bad. I was like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot. So that's good news. Starting to feel better, and hopefully the throat will clear up the next couple days, and I'll be back to normal.
Walking felt fine?
Yeah, walking's fine. Once you get out on the course, you get the adrenaline and everything. I start to feel better, but the blisters on the hands was probably the most challenging. Just it was painful to grip the club to start the week, and I was prioritizing grass, so I wasn't able to work out the way I want to and practice the way I want to and even warm up for rounds the way I want to. I really just did my best to try and battle, and like I said, it maybe was a poor decision playing, but I've never been one to try and quit.
All right, let's start with this. Trying to prioritize rest for a golfer in this situation. You play in a tournament leading up to Memphis. You get to Memphis on a Monday, and you get the lay of the land. You're there. On Tuesday, you're practicing, you're on the range, you're finding out about the course, you play a practice round. On Wednesday, you play in a Pro-Am. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're up early, you're practicing, you play 18 holes, you try to get as much sleep as you can. So you did that for Memphis. You finish up in Memphis, you're Scotty Scheffler, you win in Memphis. You're in St. Louis on Monday. you're practicing on Tuesday. He lives in Dallas, by the way. You practice on Tuesdays. You're at the range. You're finding your way around the course. You're learning about Belle Reve. On Wednesday, you're playing in a Pro-Am. On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're playing golf again. Now, the players will be in Atlanta today. They'll practice in Atlanta tomorrow. And then they'll play in a Pro-Am on Wednesday. And then they'll play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It really is hard, I would think, for golfers to prioritize rest. I was talking to some people at the tournament. I would have difficulty just playing 4 rounds of golf in 4 days, walking, even with a caddy, and then the mental strain of playing. It's probably, while it's fun to play golf, probably very difficult as well for these golfers to be able to endure that schedule. Now, here's one other thing. Rory McIlroy said he probably didn't deserve to win because he's not playing well, and he finished in the top 5. Scottie Scheffler was sick, had hand, foot, mouth disease. And he finishes in the top 20. And with all due respect to Wyndham Clark, who, very nice, Cardinal fan, Blues fan, was a St. Louis Rams fan, like him, okay? With all due respect to Colin Morikawa, who we said is a great young golfer. Goddard. The best thing for golf would be to have Scottie and Rory next week in Atlanta, battling down the stretch, playing in the final group at East Lake in Atlanta. That is where golf is right now. If golf wants to attract casual viewers, then having those 2 guys at the top is great. Wyndham Clark, great story. Colin Morikawa would be a great story. Gary Woodland was a great story. He won't be playing next week. But the best story for golf, because you don't have Tiger Woods anymore, is Scheffler and McIlroy. And hopefully we'll get to see that in Atlanta next week. All right, that is our list for you here in The Fight. Coming up, we've got more on the show. We've got a daily wager for you, and we're going to tell you about, okay, we'll admit it's a mistake, but it was a winner next in The Fight. Hey, I want you to know about St. Luke's Executive Health Program. If you are somebody who works a lot and you say, you know what, I don't even have that time to get to my primary. I can't go to all these different doctors to worry about my health. I'm a tough guy. I'm working out every day. Hey, take it from me. Take a half day and utilize St. Luke's Executive Health Program. It is a fully comprehensive physical. It includes labs, it includes EKG, it includes chest x-rays and fitness evaluation and nutrition counseling in one streamlined half-day visit. Guys, you can spend a half day worrying about your health. Not even worrying about your health, but concerning yourself with your health. And all you need to do is go to St. Luke's, and they have concierge service. So if you need to get work done, they have a private suite, they have complimentary Wi-Fi, they have all the things that you need to get your job done and keep your health as good as it can be. There's screenings that matter. Heart health, cancer markers, metabolic panels, thyroid, vitamin D, and more are available. And you can go beyond the basics with cardiology and vascular and pulmonary and sleep and add imaging that are available. It really is a great half-day item that you need to take advantage of at St. Luke's. It's their executive concierge service. You can get all of your health stuff taken care of in one half day, and you don't have to go back until next year. See the St. Luke's difference for yourself. Call 314-205-6060 today for world-class compassionate care, or visit online at stlukes-stl.com. We did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah, we did it. Okay. We did it. I always tell you guys every single day to gamble responsibly, okay? So that means pay attention. Well, last week, in our last bet of the week, I said that we should bet on the Dodgers and the Rockies to score 3 runs in the first 3 innings, not realizing that I was betting on each team to score 3 runs in each of the first 3 innings. Well, we made the bet, but you know what? At plus 600, the Dodgers scored a run in the first and 2 in the third. The Rockies scored a run in the first and 2 in the third. Both teams at plus 600 did score 3 runs in each of in the first 3 innings total, and so we won. We were winners, even by accident. At plus 600, we took $600 home on our $100 investment. So let's try something that we pay attention to, okay? And just remember to gamble responsibly. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on tonight. You've got the Boston Red Sox taking on the Miami Marlins, and it's a great pitching pairing. Ranger Suarez against Sandy Alcantara. So let's go down to what we've got, a parlay that our friends at DraftKings have put together for us, and that is strikeouts. It's 5+ strikeouts for Sandy Alcantara and 6+ strikeouts for Ranger Suarez. That's at plus 262. I like that a lot. I like 5 for Alcantara, who's not a huge strikeout guy, by the way, but against Boston he should be. And then I like Ranger Suarez against the Marlins, and I like this at plus 262. So we're going to put a few bucks on this. Let's put $100 on it. And let's see how much we're going to make. We are going to make a grand total of $362 because we've got Alcantara and Suarez striking out enough guys. That is our daily wager, and hopefully we'll be able to pull it off again. This one wasn't a mistake, though. All right, coming up next, we've got today's fun fact, we've got story time with Uncle Randy, and we've got this date in sports history. Stick around. All right, time for today's fun fact. And any parent deserves a good seat to watch their kid in his first minor league game and hitting his first minor league home run. Well, Scott Stroh-Snyder doesn't roll that way. Stroh-Snyder's son, Sawyer, hit his first professional home run right here last week for the Brewers' Class A Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. And guess who caught the ball? That would be Dad out there, who, as Sawyer told MILB.com, has a habit of roaming the stadium restlessly and watching. This time he headed to the party deck at Fox City Stadium just beyond the right field fence, and Sawyer sent him that special delivery. Wow, first pro home run. Did Sawyer know his dad had caught that home run?
Yeah, first professional home run was pretty cool. I was waiting on it. It had been a week or so I felt like it was coming. It was really cool because out of the box I got to see where it landed, and I knew what my dad was wearing that day and saw him catch it, so it was pretty epic moment.
What was the emotion like rounding first, seeing him, and you were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Not even Hollywood could write that.
Yeah, he likes to wander around the stadiums. He can't sit still, so it was pretty crazy knowing he was there at the right time, and yeah, I was shocked that he caught it first off and that he was standing there, so it was pretty cool.
How was your dad after you hit that home run and he was able to catch it? What was his?
Yeah, he couldn't even grasp what had happened. He was very shocked on what he did and that he was there at the right time, and he was super excited that I hit my first home run as well.
Sawyer was the second rounder of the Brewers, 66th overall. And how about watch Dad out in right field in the party deck making the catch, and it was a really good catch too. Congratulations to Sawyer on the home run and to Dad Scott for making the catch. All right, time now for story time with Uncle Randy, and Director Tyler is going to spin the wheel. We'll come up with a sport, we'll come up with a decade for you, and we will come up with a story from story time. Okay, we're going to talk 2000s. And we're going to go with some 2000s basketball. Okay, this will be fun. You know, a team that I did not expect to win was the 2004 Detroit Pistons under Larry Brown. And I was a big Larry Brown fan, despite the fact that he moved around all the time. But for him to get that NBA championship, that elusive NBA championship against a Lakers team that we didn't know was as fractured as it was pretty cool. Detroit, just the gritty, tough team. Joe Dumars was the general manager, and they bring in, and I didn't think that it would work when they brought in Rasheed Wallace, but Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, it was a pretty good team. Rip Hamilton, they were a really good team, but to beat the Shaq and Kobe Lakers was huge for them in 2004. And in that decade, that was one of my favorite NBA teams because that was a team of, for lack of a better term, ne'er-do-wells, but Larry Brown put them together and they played great, and they wound up winning a championship against what was one of the most talented, if not the most cohesive teams in the history of the league. By the way, that was one of the dream teams, by the way, that the Lakers had put together with grizzled veterans to join Shaq and Kobe. It just didn't work. All right, time now for this date in sports history. And on this date in 1993, the San Diego Padres scored 13 runs in the first inning against the Cardinals and win the game 17-4. All right, how about this? Tim Tuffle in the first inning, a homer and a single. Tony Gwynn in the first inning, a walk and a single. Derek Bell, double and a single. Along with Derek Bell, Phil Clark, a double and a single. Phil Plantier homered but made an out. And Archie Cianfrocco also made an out. As a matter of fact, Archie Cianfrocco made 2. 13-run first inning for the Padres against the Cardinals in San Diego in 1993. And this was kind of troubling for the pitching staff. Alan Watson allowing 8 runs in 2/3 of an inning. That was pretty rugged. And then Todd Third Degree Burns, quite a nickname for a relief pitcher, allowed 8 in 5 1/3, and the Cardinals wound up losing by a score of 17-4. On the bright side, after that first inning, they tied 4-4. So the Cardinals were as good as San Diego after the bottom of the first inning. That was just a rugged time. And when you have, and all due respect to Todd Burns, because not many people, only like 23,000, 24,000 people in history have donned a major league uniform and played in a major league game. But there has to be a worst. And I think Todd Burns might have been in the bottom 5 all time of people that pitched in multiple games in Major League Baseball. Just a bad acquisition on the part of the Cardinals. And by the way, Alan Watson had a few of those blow-ups too. Had one in 1994 in July, and then obviously in August of 1993, allowing 8 runs in 2/3 of an inning. That was pretty bad. And that was one of the problems that the Cardinals had at that point. All right, we've got a lot of cool stuff here on Matrix Midwest. Tonight at 6 o'clock, we've got the MLS replay, St. Louis City SC against Sporting KC. This is last Wednesday's game. And then tomorrow night at 6, we've got another MLS replay, the Saturday night game, St. Louis City SC against Houston Dynamo. And now, heck, St. Louis City SC is just winning all their games. So every time you watch one of these replays, tonight at 6, tomorrow at 6, you're going to see a St. Louis City SC victory. The only market in America where you can see MLS on free TV, it's the replays right here of St. Louis City SC on Matrix Midwest. Then on Wednesday, we've got the Springfield Cardinals, and they've got Ryanel Rodriguez going. They have Liam Doyle going, so an opportunity to see them. And then Friday, you've got the Bengals and the Eagles right here on Matrix Midwest, while the Cardinals play the Pirates on First Alert 4. Don't forget to check out Fastball. It's a 1-hour condensed version of the previous day's Cardinal game every day at noon and 4 here on Matrix Midwest. And after Fastball at 4 o'clock, you can catch us at 5 and then again at 10 every single night. For our outstanding director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Carricker. Thanks so much for tuning in. Great to have you with us. And until next time, take care. We'll see you next time in the fight.